disgusting.
That's why I asked.
Who's driving? It's over 9. What?
Crap car.
Use the boots to get it.
No.
Huh? What the f?
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I am your online voice for reviews of your choice, and welcome to BS Reviews. Well, I reviewed everyone's comments and concerns over my update video message that I posted a week ago or so. And after doing some real long thinking and listening to what you guys have said, I have decided to maintain my movie reviews and my anime reviews at the same time and not cancel the movie reviews, as you can probably tell by the fact that I am doing a movie review right now. But I just want to thank everyone for their time, their comments, and their thoughts on my little dilemma. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time of day to think about this. I'll start things off with my newest movie review, and that is the film Date Night. Date Night is brought to you by 20th Century Fox Films. It was directed by Shawn Levy, who's made such films as The Night at the Museum series, Cheaper by the Dozen remake, and the remake of The Pink Panther. Written by Josh Klausner. It stars Steve Carell as Phil Foster, Tina Fey as Claire Foster, Mark Wahlberg as Holbrook, Taraji P. Henson as Detective Ario, Jimmi Simpson as Armstrong, Common as Collins, James Franco as Taste, and Mila Kunis as Whippet. The plot of Date Night. Date Night follows a typical average, boring, suburbs-bound couple, Phil and Claire Foster, who've been married for a while. They got like 2 or 3 kids, and every once in a while they have a babysitter come over to watch their children as they go out for a date night. The problem is everything is very cliche and traditional. They know what everything's going to happen. It's no surprises, nothing interesting. It's just very typical and boring. So Claire and Phil decide to spice things up by getting all dressed up, looking sexy, and going out for dinner on the night on the town by going to this trendy new restaurant. Unfortunately, it's booked up the ass. However, when someone is calling for the triple horns table of 2 and they don't show up, Phil decides to take the reservation so they can get a table instead of waiting there all night. They're having a good time until 2 thugs, Armstrong and Collins, take them outside and threaten to shoot them if they don't deliver some sort of hard drive that they claim that the triple horns were ransoming their boss for. So now Phil and Claire Foster are on the run from these 2 thugs, as well as the cops, gangsters, and a couple other crazy people who are all after them, thinking they are this couple, the Triple Horn. Review of the plot. This is a very, very old school kind of plot, the whole mistaken identity thing. If the only thing this movie had going for this was this plot, then trust me, it would not be worth my money or my time. However, what made this film interesting to me and made me want to check it out is the leads. And that's because these guys are some of the best at what they do. Steve Carell and Tina Fey are some of the funniest people in terms of writing, dialogue, and just all around, comedy. They always do good work, whether it's on TV or in movies. They're always good. They're always funny. So I thought, well, you really can't go wrong with actors like that. I find that also ironic that this film is portrayed and listed as a comedy, but as I'm watching the movie, I found myself more interested into seeing where the story was going to go, because the story takes you into all kinds of weird places. I mean, there's a lot more action and shooting and just a lot more, intensity going on than I expected, and there's a lot more mystery going on that I wasn't expected. I didn't think there'd be this much to the plot. In fact, I thought it was going to be pretty simple and just focus more on the comedy. Instead, I kind of got the reverse. Although I shouldn't have been too surprised, though, especially with the level of humor in this film. It was funny, but it was not hilarious. Like I said, if it had been any other actors doing this movie would have probably been really, really sucky. But it's kept funny, even though the material itself is not that well written, by the actors, who are doing their obvious comedic best to pull off a clever punchline. And I think that's what kind of really made me feel more into the film, is that these actors are really trying so hard to work with this material, even though it's not that fresh. I mean, if you've seen any of Shawn Levy's films, his humor is more family-based. And I mean, look at the track record. Cheaper by the Dozen, Pink Panther, Night at the Museum movies. It's all pretty safe stuff. And this movie is really no different. But it's improved by the fact that it's got a lot of top-notch talented actors in it. Review of the characters. As said before, the leads are what really make this film survive and stand on its own. Look at these guys in the film. It's like I could totally see them as being a married couple, because they just seem to play off each other so well and so realistically. I mean, their reactions are so good. I mean, Steve Carell's hilarious. And it's just funny because even when he's toned down, he's very, very funny. And what really makes this movie even funnier is the fact that even though the writing is not that funny, seeing how Steve Carell and Tina Fey play Phil and Claire Foster makes the situation they get into all the more humorous. Like, for example, there's this one scene where they're trying to get into this strippers club and meet the boss, who supposedly has connections to the Triple Horns. And to get in, though, they have to prove their sexiness by doing a strip pole dance. So think about this. You got Steve Carell, Tina Fey playing 40-something parents who are totally boring and average, trying to be sexy on a stripper's pole. It's the most awkward and inexplicably hilarious scene in the entire film, just because of how silly and ridiculous it looks for these type of characters. And you couldn't really make that work without these actors being that committed to being that silly and just very blasé, and that's what makes it funny. I also find it funny that Tina Fey manages to be sexy as well as the boorish mom at the same time. She pulls it off well. She's actually a very attractive woman and funny at the same time, so that also works in her advantage in this film. But what really makes this movie sell is not just the leads, but every actor in a sense, because there's a lot of just real quality talent in just the smallest roles. I mean, there's a lot of surprise actors in here who are just funny just for the fact that say, hey, that he's in this movie. Mark Wahlberg as Holbrook, hilarious. I mean, he's funny just by the way he looks. He's looking totally man sexy without a shirt, and it's a reoccurring joke through the whole movie about his shirt. And he makes it work. He makes it funny without even doing that much a bit of acting. He's a good actor, but here, he's here for the joke value, and he really sells it. Even the two thugs, Jimmi Simpson and Common playing Armstrong Collins, they're really good in this. I mean, they played some really convincing guys. I mean, they weren't great, but I like them for this. By far, though, the funniest is just, and even though they're in here only a little bit, funniest casting has to go with James Franco and Mila Kunis as Taste and Whippet, who are in fact the real Triple Horns. And they're only in there a little bit, like I said, but it's hilarious because they're just so good at humor. These guys are so great at it, and they convey so much in such a short amount of time with their appearance and their attitude. It's really good stuff for such a small amount of time. Taraji P. Henson was alright. She really didn't go anywhere. She kind of felt like she was just inserted just for the story's sake, kind of like the detectives involved in the Bounty Hunter movie, that sort of thing. But she wasn't bad. View the cinematography and the music. Music was good. I really liked the fact that they mixed this with just normal, kind of average music, but then actual pop music, so it kind of keeps it a little more interesting. You know, it's a good way to keep this movie mixed up because it is a mixed-up film. It doesn't know what it wants to be sometimes with the action, with the humor, and with the cutesy romance, which they all managed to pull off rather nicely altogether considered. Cinematography was very nice. They got a lot of beautiful shots of the city. Just the camera work with Tina Fey and Steve Carell, it just makes their moments even more funnier. It really gives off the sense of the introduction to the characters much more effectively through the camera work, if that makes any sense at all. Flaws about the film. As I said, this movie has a hard time trying to figure out what it wants to be because there's so many elements of everything. It's really hard to say what this movie should be focusing on and what it should not be focusing on. On the one hand, I really enjoyed the action sequences. I mean, they weren't nothing ridiculous, but they served to keep you interested. And I love the cutesy romance moments that between Steve Carell and Tina Fey's characters that are actually one of the few, really strong points in the writing that aren't humorous. But on the other hand, the humor is the focus of the film, supposedly, but it's just not that hilarious. It's a funny movie. I do laugh at it, but it's not hilarious. And you expect with this amount of comedic talent that it would be hilarious, but unfortunately the script kind of binds this film in a locked position, and it's no matter how hard the actors or the action sequences try, it can't really pry itself any further out of that script. And that's the real issue with this film that kept it from becoming something even better. Final wrap-up. Date Night is a really enjoyable, sweet, funny, and kind of cutesy film that I think can work with everyone. The humor in here works on a much more broader scale than Shawn Levy's usual films, and it mostly helps from Steve Carell and Tina Fey, who are just magnificent actors. They're funny, they're cute, they're great together as a couple, and just as an on-screen. And you got a lot of great additional cast characters from James Franco, Mila Kunis, Mark Wahlberg. They all do a great job pulling together for this film, and they just do such a good job, even though the script is very tight lock and it's funny but not hilarious and it doesn't know what it wants to be. Still, I say it's worth the experience, and I say it's worth the ticket price. Bottom line, I give Date Night 3 stars out of 5 stars. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.